SEGA.
Hey all, Flame here, and welcome to the Sonic Rivals commentary. And this game is a game that I've had this weird kind of fascination with for quite a little while now. And I'd say that despite me only recently beating the game for myself, because this game, what I find, I guess, ironically unique about it is that it's probably the most painfully average game I've ever played. And by that I mean this is not your conventional bad Sonic game. This isn't Sonic 06 where everything's broken and you clip through walls and you fall through the floor and that sort of shit. And it's not Sonic and the Secret Rings where you got really annoying motion controls that don't work properly. No, this everything, well, I'm being generous. Mostly it technically works, but it's just so uninteresting. But that in itself has its own kind of bizarre charm to me. But going into this, the general story of the game that we're seeing here is that Dr. Eggman, as far as we know, is trying to turn everything in the world into a card. So the characters and the world and all that sort of shit. He wants to turn them into cards for some reason, and he's got this special camera that lets him do that. And why he wants to do this, fuck knows, but hey, we needed a plot and we had 5 minutes to come up with something, so I guess this will do the job. But what we're saying here is, because this game has 4 separate character stories that, much like Sonic Heroes, all cover the same levels, I'm just showing off all the cutscenes from all 4 of the characters, but only showing one of each level, because we don't want to be watching the same level 4 times. Like, this game is sort of bland enough as it is. I don't really want to make the whole playthrough boring too, but you know, I've just thought I should show off the whole story just because that's the better way of doing things. But Shadow's side of the story here, what he's getting is he's getting like radio transmissions that are not really giving him much information for what he needs to be doing, and so now he's just encountered Silver and they're gonna race. Oh yeah, that's the other thing about this game. The general centerpiece of the game is the racing mechanic, because every level in this game, with a couple of exceptions, are races between the characters. And that's not kart races, like, say, All-Stars Racing or All-Stars Racing Transformed. And it's not like 3D foot races like Sonic R. No, this is 2D gameplay with the characters racing for some reason. And they race for the most arbitrary reasons possible. Like, why are Sonic and Knuckles racing here? They're both on a quest to stop Eggman. Like, I guess there's the whole idea of Sonic and Knuckles' ongoing rivalry here, that they're trying to one-up each other and that, but as we go through the game, the reasons for racing become more and more obviously arsepull, because they wanted us to use this mechanic, and they absolutely didn't want to leave it out at all. What we're seeing right now, it looks like very traditional 2D Sonic gameplay. It actually controls much clunkier than traditional 2D Sonic gameplay, because physics in this game don't work. And the mechanics we've come to know through classic Sonic just don't work either. An example of this is the spin dash, with the exception of at the very start of the level, to give yourself like a boost like you might in, say, Mario Kart or something. It's completely bloody useless. You're not going to need the spin dash mid-level. And actually, using an air dash is more effective than using a spin dash, and that kind of goes against everything you might know from Sonic. Because, like, yeah, air dashes tend to be a temporary boost in other games, like, say, Generations or Unleashed, where you use that just to give yourself that little dash, but they're a very temporary thing, and you come to kind of a halt again when you finish, like when you land the jump, whereas here, that is your momentum. You gain momentum by jumping somehow. I don't think that's necessarily intentional, but it seems like they've had to make quite a few compromises on the basis that there's another character in the way too. Quite often, you'll be running along, and Knuckles will be like a little bit in front of you, and you need to get past Knuckles. but there's not necessarily the space to jump or homing attack at him like you might ideally want to do. So you get onto a dash pad and then it just flings you into Knuckles' back, and Knuckles might be stunned. Knuckles might have like taken a hit or got hit by an item, but he's just there sucking your way. And as we know, that's really not the most riveting of gameplay, just waiting for this other guy to recover so he can move, so you can then catch up with him. It's just, no, like, Knuckles, get a fucking move on, mate. But these are the other two characters that are playable in Rivals. We've got Shadow, because we need Shadow, because he's our great Lord and Saviour, edgy hedgehog, who is incredibly marketable, so we've got to put him in whenever we can. And we've also got Silver, somehow. Silver, his previous appearance before this, he was in Sonic 06. That game never technically happened in the Sonic canon. That game was wiped at the end of the game, and so because of how Silver came to be, theorising here, it's quite unlikely that he would have come to exist in his current form, or in that form. But now he's here, he's come back from the future for, again, some reason. I think his reasoning is that he's trying to save the past from Eggman turning all the shit into cards and something. But really, it's just, he's the new character, and we wanted to use him again. We didn't want to just forget about him after 06. So we'll bring him back because we need to bring him back. It's kind of like bringing Shadow back in Heroes. Like, they didn't really have a good way to bring him back, but they thought they probably should. And so they just twisted the fabric of time to make it happen. And that's the thing with 06, because technically Silver could have existed, but it's very unlikely. If you think of all the possible time travel theories, the way that there would have been this sort of intervention, that kind of one of the more prominent theories about time travel is that anything that gets changed in the past would have like a knock-on effect. So it'd be a kind of butterfly effect sort of thing, where, you know, every decision has some different outcome. But no, Silver's ended up exactly the same. He's got a very similar personality to 06 as well. Like, maybe not quite as whiny, but he's just sort of there, and he has his high-pitched voice. Like, it's not a over-the-top one, because this game has very limited voice acting. Like, the voice acting is mainly limited to grunts and just random little quotes like "Eggman" or "Get back" or something like that, that really doesn't need to be there. And now we're coming on to this game's first boss fight, and despite all our characters essentially having the same goals, even the boss fights are competitive between the rivals. So I'm going to be fighting the boss here as Shadow again, but Silver's still going to be in the way, even though he wants to get to Eggman 2. Like, what sense does that make, Shadow and Silver? Like, just team up and beat the guy. Like, even though, yeah, you've had this bit of confrontation to start with, just sort of suck it up. You've got a greater boss here. You've got a greater evil than this other guy you've just encountered who's sort of annoying you. Like, just gang up on him because he's the guy doing evil shit. Then you can sort of wrap up your personal disputes once he's out of the way. Like, is that not the more logical thing you could do? Maybe I'm just using my brain a bit too much, and that's apparently a bad thing. Yeah. This first boss looks fucking stupid, by the way. It's a giant bleeding turtle. The general boss mechanic here is that you need to get the boss to 6 hits, and that's not 6 cumulative hits, that's 6 hits with your character. So like right now I need to get 6 hits with Shadow. Silver can get up to 6 hits. If he gets 6 hits before I get 6 hits, he'll win the boss battle. So it really doesn't make sense as to how the boss works, because really you'd think if it takes 6 hits to kill him, it'd take 6 hits to kill him. But no, if Silver gets 0 hits or if Silver gets 5 hits, it'll take me as many hits to beat him anyway. I'll have to get 6 hits either way, so game, where's the logic? But yeah, back onto this game's, I guess, history. This game came out in 2006. As we know, 2006 was not the greatest year for Sonic the Hedgehog. It was the 15th anniversary year, and the main 15th anniversary game was the Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 game, which we all kind of know how that came out. But also there were other games. There was Sonic Genesis on the Game Boy Advance. And yeah, I know I've covered this on the channel before, but Sonic Genesis is a port of Sonic 1 that has a lot of screen crunch. It has a lot of slowdown. Like, it runs at like 15 frames per second on a good day. And that was absolute wank. And also on the 15th anniversary, we had Sonic Riders, which, like, for a spin-off game, it's sad to say this, but Sonic Riders was probably the highlight of the 15th anniversary. It's actually quite a fun racing game if you can put the time into it to get good at it, because it has a very steep learning curve. You're not going to just pick up this game and race your mates and just get good at it pretty quickly like you would with, say, Mario Kart or All Stars Racing or something like that. No, you're going to have to put a bit of time to get used to the hoverboard controls, get used to how to get good, and the story mode has a bit of a difficulty problem as well, in that it's very strict. You have to get first place to progress a lot of the time. But otherwise, yeah, Riders is a fun game. It's more fun than this as a racing game, even though they're like very different kinds of racing games. But the other thing that I should probably bring up is this game was developed by Backbone Entertainment, who, if you follow Sonic closely, you might recognise them as the guys who did the Xbox Live Arcade and PSN ports of the classic Sonic games. And they also did that Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection, or over here I think it's just like the Mega Drive collection or something like that. Them ports, they're not exactly amazing ports, like they're perfectly playable, like they're no sort of Sonic Genesis clusterfuck, but they do have a few audio problems, like every now and then you get random pops, and it's just generally not the cleanest thing. Like, if you want to just play Sonic on your Xbox or your PS3, then they're perfectly serviceable, but you can do better in that respect. But Backbone in general are kind of the bits and pieces sort of developers. Like, they take on a handful of licensed IPs, and they've also done things like the Game Boy Advance Spyro games. I think there's a couple of them on the Game Boy Advance. I've never played them. I don't really care for Spyro that much myself. But they also did the Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD remix. And that's a fucking stupid name, but if it's the one I'm thinking of, I just saw this name written down on Backbone's Wikipedia page, because I thought I'd get myself a bit of flavour. But as far as I recall, that's the one that had like these super cartoony anime sort of graphics. Which, Street Fighter 2, it's had so many re-releases now, I get them confused with one another. This level is called Colosseum Highway, and the first one was called Forest Falls. It's annoying how it doesn't kind of give you a title card that says what the upcoming level is, because I played through the entire game not really knowing what the levels were called outside the first one, because I saw it like on the level select. And it's like, I was looking through my notes here and like, oh, this level's called Colosseum Highway. Oh, that's so interesting. But yeah, for the sake of the playthrough, I'm going to try and give all the characters roughly equal exposure here. Because if you've watched the Sonic Heroes run on Hellfire Comms, you probably get the general gist of what I'm going for here. Just get everyone shown off a little bit while showing off the whole story. Just so it's like a to-the-point run of Sonic Rivals rather than having the full run. Which, if you do want to watch the full run, if you want to see like each character's gameplay, we've put those videos up on HellfirePlaythroughs if you want to see that footage. But for this, we're doing it the simple question mark way. And this is what I mean about the other characters getting in your way. Like, I kind of wish this game had, at least in them sort of situations, I wish it had like Trackmania physics where they could sort of pass through each other. Like, if there was some sort of programming on the map to pick up that this is maybe a sensitive section where the characters might collide, and there might not be much you can do if the characters collide. Like, maybe if it let you pass through them. But no, but you just sort of crash into each other, and it's honestly really annoying when it happens. Like, it's goofy to look at, but it's really annoying when you're trying to actually play the game. This level, I'm trying to work out exactly what it is, because it's got the Colosseum ancient Greek sort of aesthetic to a T, but it also has a little bit of general desert vibe to it. And like, granted, it's not as blatant copy-paste as, say, Forest Falls, where it was just a Green Hill clone, because every game's got to have a Green Hill clone. I don't like that in games, actually, having it so blatantly, because it's incredibly arbitrary to have this kind of rehashing in terms of level themes. Like, if they switched it up a bit, I'd be fine. Like, if it was like the Green Hill level came maybe a bit later, and that just was the way that went down, that'd be perfectly fine by me. But it's making the games feel very samey for the sake of making the games feel very samey. If it was making the games have similar kind of level schemes, which makes sense because it's taking place in the same world, then it'd be okay. But if you can switch up a little bit, you probably should, just to make it feel that little bit fresh without throwing everything out of whack. But Silver's won there, and it's probably refreshing for Silver to win, because if you remember in Sonic 06, he was kind of more obnoxious than actually threatening. Like, he could do these weird glitches, like he can catch you and knock you against the wall repeatedly, and that'd kind of fuck you over a bit and annoy you. But as a character, he came across as like this really desperate sort of character. And yeah, these kind of run basically into each other. I've edited it in a way that I hope it's at least somewhat clear who's talking from which story, but given this game's art design is very fucking lazy, like you get the exact same backgrounds, you get the exact same sort of models and that, it can sort of blend together. And when I was putting together the full runs for Hellfire Playthroughs, it very quickly became apparent to me how similar each of the stories are. Because that's something else that I don't like about this game, and it's something I don't like about Heroes, in that it is the same gameplay each time. And like, I'd actually give a point to Heroes in Heroes' favour here, because although Heroes it is very samey, it is basically the same levels and that, at least you had the benefit of each of the team stories were slightly different. Like, Team Sonic were the like medium difficulty, Team Dark were the harder mode, you had Rose as the kind of bitch casual mode, and you had Team Chaotix doing their own thing with missions. Whereas this, they all feel exactly the same, and as far as I can tell, the AI difficulty is the same in all the stories too. So like, Silver has the same difficulty level as Shadow, Sonic or Knuckles. And it just feels repetitive. It's very fillery to make you do the same thing 4 times. And this game doesn't actually have a last story, so you are just playing through the same thing 4 times without sort of any special unlock. Like, you unlock Metal Sonic as a playable character, but he doesn't actually have a story. He's just like a character you can play as in the challenge mode. This boss here is actually pretty annoying, and what makes it annoying is normally in a 2D plane in games, when you've got these platforms above you, you can just jump through them to get up there pretty quick. Whereas now you hit your head on it, and it's so bloody obnoxious. Like, the amount of times I've tried to jump up and just got knocked back down, where I've just been like an inch off, and it's just become a right pain, and yeah, I don't like that boss at all. But overall it's not difficult, it's more annoying. And I can say that about a lot of this game actually. It's not difficult, it's annoying. There's a lot of stuff that, it's not a challenge, but if you just keep on doing the same things over and over, you'll get it eventually. There were a lot of retakes in this recording where I just, like, I might have fucked something up, or the AI might have overtaken me at the last minute. And ultimately, it's not enough to get angry about, it's just that ongoing frustration. Like, the way I described this game a few days ago actually is that it's not really a challenge, it's more a series of inconveniences before you win. And like, that's probably the best way to wrap it up, in that there's enemies that get in your way, they're not actually a problem, they're just sort of mildly annoying. The other racer, they're mildly annoying. The bosses, they're mildly annoying. It's an endurance, but it's got its own weird sort of charm to it, but I don't know why. And I know that's my shit taste speaking. I know that's my shit taste speaking because I have very shit taste. But what's happening now in terms of the plot is that all the characters, for different reasons, get warped to the next level. And the next level will be Sky Park, which is the generic casino level. It's not quite a casino nightclub, but it's got the same sort of aesthetic to it, so it might as well be. And now it's Silver's time to get warped, even though Silver's the guy who's previously done a lot of warping around. But yeah, Knuckles, there's no reason to get aggressive here, you just met him. Yeah, Knuckles gets oddly defensive in this game, in a couple of situations actually. He just like, don't get me mad sort of shit. Knuckles, calm your tits, mate. Well, I'll see you next time for part 2 of Sonic Rivals. See you then.